So I'm really annoyed at Texas right now. I don't know what they're thinking, man. What are you doing? Well, in Texas, it's actually illegal for Tesla to sell cars the way they normally sell cars, and there are people who are okay with that, and I'm not sure why. Well, there's a bill that would allow Tesla to sell cars in Texas that actually died during committee. So somebody tried to fix the problem, but it didn't really work. So according to Ars Technica, a great source of tech news, in a turn of events that isn't terribly surprising, a bill to allow Tesla Motors to sell cars directly to consumers in Texas has failed to make it to the floor, with various state representatives offering excuses about not wanting to, quote, piss off all the auto dealers. Oh, that's what it's about. We don't want to make them mad. We don't want to make them upset. If we make the auto dealers upset, they might not stay in Texas or something like that. After all, don't mess with Texas. Now, I don't really have a whole lot against Texas, right? I mean, Texas is kind of a cool state. They're very independent-minded. They were founded by Tennesseans, a lot of them, a lot of people who, Sam Houston was a Tennessean. There's a lot of great things you can say about Texas, which makes it kind of surprising what's going on here with this bill, or lack of bill, meaning that Texas, or at least some people in Texas, don't seem to understand or value a free market system very much. The Lone Star State's notoriously anti-Tesla stance, one of the strongest in the nation, is in many ways the direct legacy of powerful lawmaker-turned-lobbyist Gene Fondren, who spent much of his life ensuring that the Texas Automobile Dealers Association's wishes were railroaded through the Texas legislature. So in order to protect the automakers in Texas, they're trying to stop Tesla from selling cars, despite the fact that Tesla is sort of still a fringe thing. It's not like everyone's out there buying Tesla cars. I mean, I don't even think I would buy a Tesla car if I could afford it, because the technology just doesn't seem to be quite there yet. I mean, when we're talking about Tesla cars, you have to remember that they are electric cars. Now, there are EVA charging facilities. There's one on North Shore, which I actually think is free, oddly enough. There's one on North Shore, right next to Coolidge Park. There's a charging facility for electric cars, and I've never seen anyone use them. I've never seen anyone there. You may have. I haven't seen anybody use the electric vehicle charging thing, but it just doesn't seem like there's enough of them around. Now, TVA has been making a bit of an effort. The Tennessee Valley Authority has been making a bit of an effort to put these things up, but it's not really working. People don't really drive that many electric cars. I mean, if electric cars lasted several days, that would be a different story. But because they last a few hours at best, and they can drive for a few hundred miles at best on a single charge, it's not really that great, really. It's not really good for a daily commuter vehicle, unfortunately. It's just not there yet. Well, that legacy is alive and well with the Texas Automobile Dealers Association. The legacy of that is very much alive, with Texas lawmakers refusing to pass bills in 2013 and again in 2015 to allow Tesla to sell to consumers. To sell to consumers. So, per the state's franchise laws, automakers like Tesla are only allowed to sell cars to independent third-party dealers. These laws were originally intended to protect consumers against the possibility of automakers colluding on pricing. Today, though, they function as a protectionist shield for the entrenched political interests of car dealers and their powerful state and nationwide lobbyist organizations. So a law that was meant to protect companies is only hurting the consumer. Surprise, surprise. A law that was actually meant to protect the consumer is actually hurting the consumer. Again, surprise, surprise. This is not any surprise at all, because it's a case of the state getting involved and getting very interventionist when it comes to buying and selling. Because as soon as the state starts doing that, problems start arising. As soon as the state swoops in and says, we're going to tell you how to buy and sell things, now some problems start arising. So now Tesla can't sell cars in Texas, which would normally be a huge market for Tesla. So instead they have to go to states like Nevada. I'm not sure if the lawmakers in of Texas understand how much they're hurting their economy. It may not seem like much now, but later on this is going to come back to bite them. Think about all the different little things that are illegal now just because of some ridiculous law that was passed several years ago, or even 50 years ago. Okay, in New Jersey, you can't pump your own gas. Like, you can't pump your own gas in New Jersey. It's really weird. It's really weird. I was driving up to Canada I'm kind of proud of that. I like to bring it up a lot. I was I was driving up to Canada not too long ago in December of last year. Driving up to Canada, December 2014, and we stopped in New Jersey to get gas. Obviously, I mean, you can't drive through all of New Jersey and not get gas. So my friend got out to pump gas, and this guy jumps out and goes, swipe your card here, sir. And it's, what are you doing? Let me pump my gas. And it's actually state law in New Jersey. You cannot pump your own gas. It's a crime. It's illegal. You have to have an attendant pump your gas for you. What does that serve? I mean, it's to protect, I'm sure, the gas pumpers union or something like that, but it just makes no sense, and it makes New Jersey look stupid, even dumber than they already do. So it's really just a problem. And Texas is the lawmakers in Texas are going to end up looking very foolish later on, although they already do. Well, the anti-Tesla sentiment, according to Ars Technica, didn't stop Texas from attempting to snag the contracts for Tesla Motors' upcoming Gigafactory, the multi-billion-dollar battery factory that Tesla Motors CEO Elon Musk eventually chose to build in Reno, Nevada. So in Texas, they want the business of Tesla. They just don't want Tesla cars in Texas. So I guess don't Tesla in Texas. They just don't want you to. It's very odd. So you can't buy a Tesla car in Texas unless it's going through a third-party dealer, but somehow they want the factory to be there to offer jobs to Texans. It doesn't seem like they understand what they're doing there. Well, speaking of Elon Musk, in a stunning display of total ignorance, Texas State Representative Senfronia Thompson, who's a Democrat representing House District 141, if that means anything to you, had this to say about the bill's failure. I can appreciate Tesla wanting to sell cars, but I think it would have been I think it would have been wiser if Mr. Tesla had sat down with the car dealers first. Nikola Tesla has been dead for a while. I think he died in the 40s or 50s, I'm wanting to say, possibly early 60s. Nikola Tesla's been dead for a very long time anyway. Nikola Tesla does not exist anymore. Now, Tesla cars were named after, of course, Nikola Tesla because of his innovations in AC electronics and all sorts of cool things, but Mr. Tesla is no longer a living person. And you would think that a well-educated or even just educated person would know that Nikola Tesla is no longer with us. The Serbian-born, I think Serbian, possibly Yugoslav-born, I know, that was a joke. Serbia was part of Yugoslavia, I know. But the Serbian Yugoslav-born man who was an American citizen, I believe he died in the 50s or 60s, possibly even the 40s. So Nikola Tesla is no longer with us. But it does not seem that Ms. Senfronia Thompson understands that Nikola Tesla was in fact a real person who existed a while ago and died a while ago. He was born in the 1800s. Well, apparently, being even minimally familiar with the matter, one legislature is not actually a requirement to serve on the Texas legislature. However, Thompson did receive many thousands of campaign contributions from the Texas Automobile Dealers Association. So perhaps she's just doing what she's told. So she doesn't understand what Tesla does as a company. She doesn't understand who Nikola Tesla was. She does not understand that Elon Musk actually owns Tesla Motor Company and founded it. She probably doesn't know that Tesla Motor Company is an electronic car manufacturer that wishes to sell directly to the consumer. She doesn't seem to know a whole lot about Tesla Motor Company. I'm not a state legislator, right? I'm not in any sort of political position. I never will be. I never hope to be. I don't want to be a political person. That would be a complete waste of time for me because I don't like politics, right? But I know who Nikola Tesla was, and I know about the Tesla Motor Company. Why? Because I read. I can read articles. It doesn't seem that Miss Thompson, I should say, can. That's like she's saying, well, I think Mr. Edison should be talking with the light bulb industry. Like, Thomas Edison's been dead for a very long time, and so is Nikola Tesla. Irony here is that stupid lawmakers or not, it's still not particularly difficult for Texas residents to buy a Tesla automobile. The process is roughly the same as buying any other car out of state, and Tesla Motors will even deliver the vehicle to the customer's house. The only caveats are that the sale can't be done in a Tesla dealership in Texas, they're called galleries, to emphasize that they're not stores, and the full amount of sales tax must be paid up front instead of rolled into the car's financing. So you have to pay the sales tax up front, and then the vehicle is financed separately from that. So you still have to pay up front the sales tax. Very annoying. There shouldn't even be sales tax anyway, but it's still very annoying. It's an obnoxious process, and really, it seems the lawmakers in Texas are just shooting themselves in the foot. And that's what always happens when you try to control business that way. And the person who voted on this doesn't even really understand Tesla as a company or Nikola Tesla as a person. She doesn't know who he is. I thought this would be sort of a standard thing in maybe if not American history, then just science, perhaps science classes. You'd learn who Nikola Tesla is. I didn't go to school, so I can't really tell you. I was never in a public school. I'm homeschooled, and people like to knock homeschoolers for not knowing many things and for being very ignorant and all that sort of thing. But I do know who Nikola Tesla is, and I can tell you what he did. He invented AC electronics, which is alternating current as opposed to Thomas Edison's direct current. And Thomas Edison actually tried to discredit Nikola Tesla by shocking different animals, in fact, an elephant, with AC electricity, saying that it was dangerous and deadly and that you should use DC. Of course, alternating current can travel much farther distances than DC can, so the best option is to convert AC to DC with a what's called a wall wart, or sometimes they call them, I think they call them breakout boxes sometimes as well, depending on the situation. But anyway, most small electronics operate on DC. If it's battery powered, it's DC. But it's still easier to transmit that electricity, I should say, over AC high tension lines. So I know this stuff, but it doesn't seem that Miss Thompson does in Texas, and that's a very much a shame. Very much a shame. You know, there's a lot of cell phone manufacturers that you might not know about. One of them is Lenovo. I actually use a Lenovo phone. It's a A850 Lenovo. It's a phablet, meaning it's a cross between a phone and a tablet. Very big screen. I like it. I'm holding it up for the webcam now, which you can view on Hot News Talk Radio. If you search for Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube, you can see I have my notes and articles and stuff up on Hot News Talk Radio. Very big phone. Comparing it to the size of my hand, it's a pretty decently large phone. It's not the size of like an iPad mini, but it's still kind of big. It's phablet, you know. It's a phone, but it's also a tablet. It looks really goofy when you hold it up to your ear, but it's a nice little phone. I like it. It's fun, but it needs some work. I'm gonna have to take it to Cell Surgeon actually to get it fixed. But Lenovo just completed its first full quarter of business as the owner of Motorola. And with its $2.91 billion acquisition from Google under its wing, the Chinese company shipped a record 18.7 million smartphones in its most recent quarter of Q4 2014, pardon me. That figure included $7.8 million in cell phones, or rather, 7.8 million smartphones from Motorola, pardon me, and represented an increase on the 16 million devices that Lenovo shipped in the previous quarter. For its entire year, the company said it shipped a best ever haul of 76 million smartphones. Now, people oftentimes think that there's only 2 or 3 smartphone companies, right? Like there's Apple, which makes the iPhone and the iPad and the iPod. I don't even count that. And there's Samsung, which makes the Samsung Galaxy series and the Galaxy Note series and all those. And those are really the 2 major phone manufacturers in the States, and actually the 2 major phone manufacturers, period. But there's also other companies like Huawei, which is a Chinese phone company, which makes actually decently affordable, powerful phones. Although they are Chinese, but I mean, come on, every smartphone's Chinese anyway. They're all manufactured over there, so big difference, right? So that's the face of smartphones today. You have a lot of companies that you might not even have heard of. There's even Huawei is actually working on a affordable phone system for India, the Indian market. I mean, the country of India, and that'll be really interesting to see how that works out. After my Lenovo has sort of died out, I'm thinking about actually picking up a Huawei next. If I don't get a Samsung, I don't want an iPad or an iPhone. I'm not into the Apple thing. I get why people are. It's easy to use and it's simple, but I don't really dig that. I'm more into the Linux sort of thing. So Android is a derivative of Linux. So that's sort of what I'm more into. I use Linux on my work computer. I use Linux on my phones now. I just like Linux better, and Android seems to be much more familiar to me. It's just one of those things where like I can pick it up and use it and it's fine. iPhones I tend to have problems with. So I don't know. I tend to have iPhones not because they're hard to use. I just don't like the interface that much. There's something about iPhones that I don't like, and I can't really explain what it is. But Lenovo just completed its first full quarter, and the figure included 7.8 million smartphones from Motorola. Lenovo hit records in other areas too. It shipped a record 60 million PCs during its 2014 financial year, marking the first year that its smartphone shipment volume beat that of its PCs. Now, you might not be thinking about Lenovo as shipping PCs, but the reason is Lenovo bought IBM's personal computer business. So The ThinkPads that IBM used to make, Lenovo now makes, and they're really good laptops too. And the ThinkCenters that IBM used to make, Lenovo now makes, and they're really good desktops. They're the only pre-built desktops that I would recommend anybody buy, and that's saying something. I mean, yeah, the Dell ones are pretty decent. You have compact ones that are kind of okay sometimes, but consistently in terms of quality, it seems like the ThinkCenters are usually pretty okay, especially the professional quality ones. Now, of course, you're going to want to do a complete reformat and revamp and reinstall of Windows. That's just standard practice for me anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. But we do have a company that is heavily involved in computers called Affordable Computers. They fix sick computers, and they'll actually custom build computers for you as well. And they'll give you a computer that's even better than one that you would get pre-built off the shelf. They'll custom build it straight for your needs. Very good company. That's Affordable Computers. You can buy all your computers from them, and they do a really good job. And also, QuickSurge, if you've gotten a small injury that requires a small amount of surgery, it's a walk-in surgery clinic called QuickSurge. Dr. David Red is the head surgeon over there. It's a public center on North Shore. They'll take off moles, skin tags, cuts, lacerations at QuickSurge. They do not take insurance because they take cash customers. They have super low and fixed prices. Credit cards, check, or cash you can use. The prices are not any sort of secret. They're online. You can check them out to see the price of what it will cost to have your procedure done. And it's hassle-free and pain-free. They use local anesthetic. It's a personal relationship with your doctor that you can get. The national medical system is totally dysfunctional. It's impersonal, and it doesn't really work, and it's overpriced. So David Red is part of the solution, and you can be too. Go to QuickSurge. That's QuickSurg.com, QuickSurg.com for QuickSurge. You can get your surgical procedure done at an affordable price, so you don't have to worry about insurance prices and co-pays and all that sort of thing. You pay directly to him with cash or credit card or check card, and it's much, much easier that way. Well, Lenovo's been doing really well, and I'm actually kind of happy for them. Lenovo makes quality smartphones. I'm using one right now, and I can't really complain. Have you been hearing about the Internet of Things? Some people are really worried about the Internet of Things, and I'm really not. People say that the Internet of Things is going to be the most intrusive thing ever, and it's going to ruin our lives, and it's going to be super scary, and I'm not really worried about the Internet of Things, honestly. The Internet of Things is the idea that regular everyday devices will be connected to the Internet in order to have better functionality. So the basic idea is that you'll have, say, a fridge, and this fridge is connected to the Internet in order to better give you prices and times and such on when you should put new eggs in the fridge, right? Like you put in eggs in the fridge, just as an example, and it'll automatically sense that there are eggs in the fridge, and it'll tell you when you need to buy new ones. That sort of thing. It'll tell you when your milk is going to go bad. That would be an Internet of Things fridge. So it's connected to the Internet to tell you these things. So the Internet of Things is something that a lot of people are worried about, saying it's going to be the ultimate display of Big Brother and all that sort of thing. You'd think I'd be worried about that, but I'm really not. Mostly because there's much better ways to track people. I'm holding that really good way to track people. It's called a cell phone. If you have a cell phone, it's super easy to track people with triangulation. Cell phone tower triangulation, it's super easy, especially if there's a cell phone tower simulation device around. It's just so easy to track people these days. It's not even funny. So Internet of Things, I don't think is really going to change a whole lot in that regard. Well, Google is developing an operating system based on Android for the Internet of Things. The information is back with more Google news before the I/O conference, according to Ars Technica. The outlet is claiming that Google is developing another operating system, this time for low-power Internet of Things devices. The OS is codenamed Brillo, as in a Brillo pad, and the publication claims Google is likely to release the software under the Android brand. As the group is developing this software, it is linked to the company's Android unit, which says we're going to take that to mean that it's based on Android. So it's coming out of the same unit that develops Android. So because they're also developing this OS, it would make sense for it to also be based on Android. So it'd be a good assumption that it is going to be. The report says that Brillo is going to be aimed at ultra-low power devices with as little as 64 or 32 megs of RAM. With the abundance of smart home technology like connected light bulbs, doors, locks, sensors, and whatever other crazy connected objects the Internet of Things crowd dreams up on Kickstarter, Google clearly sees an opportunity for this operating system to be installed on it, very, very low power, and very affordable too, we could assume, because Google doesn't actually cost much of anything to put on a device. You just have to pay a small licensing fee. So super easy, open source, good stuff. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. We're everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is on Twitter, where you report the world of science. That's AM 1240 at Hot News Talk Radio, and go to hotnewstalkradio.com. Click on the half off link to get half off on great deals.
This is a modern world. This is the modern world. What kind of fool do you think I am? You think I know nothing about my...
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak technobabble. Just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better-than-new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58, between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway, near Holcomb's. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great, supercharged.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You love your hometown. Are you interested in free markets, in local economy? Do you hope that Chattanooga can survive the next meltdown, the next chain of disasters in the national economy? What's the best way to live out the ideals of self-government and self-determination? Join me, David Toulis, weekdays 1 to 3.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Love your neighbor, buy local.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. The president's trade agenda passes a key hurdle in the Senate.
On this vote, the yeas are 62, the nays are 38.
The controversial deal now advancing to a full Senate debate.
Trade Promotion Authority would give President Obama and his successor fast-track power to negotiate trade proposals that Congress can approve or reject but not change. Supporters, which include many Republicans and business groups, say it opens U.S. goods to new markets. Opponents, a list that includes many Democrats and labor unions, worry it sends manufacturing jobs overseas where wages are lower.
Fox Radio's Jared Halpern. Officials in California say that more than 7,700 gallons of oil have been sopped up from the spill that stretches across 9 miles of coast. Up to 105,000 gallons may have leaked from the ruptured pipeline, and average long-term mortgage rates edging slightly lower this week. Fox News. We report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
So with the smart home becoming more of a viable option, I've been looking at different technologies that would really be kind of cool for your smart home. So what if we had a smart home? What would a smart home entail, right? What kind of technologies would we use to use in our smart home, to reside in our smart home? What would we want in that house? Well, I think the best technology is a technology that sort of is plug and play, right? That sort of snaps in and we don't have to even think about it. That would be the best technology. And the options that we have for that are actually not very limited at all. I was just the other day looking at this really, really cool thing that was a light bulb that was also a Bluetooth speaker. Really cool device. I'm really kind of excited about that. And I looked at prices, and I think it was about $75 for one of them. Now, you're not going to get the best quality ever out of these things. Obviously, it's a Bluetooth speaker that's also a light bulb. It gets its power from the light bulb socket, so that's super easy, and it's LED. So you're not going to be outputting nearly as much power as you normally would be, because LEDs are, they're colder, as in they're actually physically they're colder, so you don't have to worry about air conditioning costs going up because you're heating your house actually with light bulbs. A lot of people don't realize that, but light bulbs will actually heat up your house somewhat significantly because you have basically little heat generators that you have in your ceiling. So that's one option. That's one plus. The other is that it's really actually kind of bright, and you could change the color. And that was the cool thing, is you could change the color of this of these light bulbs, so you could have it blue, red, white, yellow, red, whatever you want, all different colors. So that was really cool too. And thirdly, it was a Bluetooth speaker that you could actually mesh. So you could have multiple Bluetooth speakers with these different light bulbs. So you have one here and one here and one here, all over the place. Really cool, like really neat. So you could have all these different Bluetooth devices all over the place and hook up with your speaker, and you can play music out over them. I would probably use the TuneIn app and actually listen to the station over them. So I could have the TuneIn app all over the place. Really cool. And it plugs into a regular light bulb light socket. It just screws right in, and you connect with the app, and there you go. And it's always taking power, and it's smart, so it'll recognize if you're closer. It'll lighten and dim it as well. Really, really neat technology. And there was something called Smart Candles, I think is what it's called. It was the same sort of thing, except it was not really the same sort of thing, because it had it didn't have a speaker. Sorry, I got distracted. It didn't have a speaker, but it had lights that could change, and you could mesh them. I think 8 is what they recommended, and it was, I think, 49 something for a pack of 3, and that was a really cool sort of thing too. So that's the sort of thing that we'd be seeing in our smart homes. Also, if Microsoft gets their way, the way we think about smart homes could change pretty drastically as well, because they're developing HoloLens. In fact, have probably actually completed developing HoloLens, which is their augmented reality headset. So what this could do is you could have apps that are actually just on your wall, projected on your wall with this new technology. Very excited about Microsoft HoloLens. I take the chance to show anyone I can Microsoft HoloLens, because it's just such an exciting development. And if Android, or rather if Google recognizes, the guys over Google recognize what's going on with Microsoft and the HoloLens, hopefully the guys in their R&D department are going to recognize that, hey, we need to make something very similar to this very soon. So we might be seeing something like Google Glass coming out, except better, hopefully, and more affordable. So I'm pretty excited about that too. And Google is developing Brillo, which I think is probably going to be the answer to Microsoft's HoloLens and their smart home technology. Google bought Nest. Keep that in mind. When Google bought Nest, it sort of made a statement that, we're getting involved in the smart home technology full time. We're now smart home. So Internet of Things is really going to be taking off soon. Probably this decade, we'll start seeing more smart home stuff become mainstream, and people will look at you like you're lame if you don't have this technology. So very excited about that. This new report says that Brillo is going to be aimed. Brillo is the operating system that Android, or rather that Google's developing. That Brillo is going to be aimed at ultra low power devices with as little as 64 to 32 megs of RAM, with the abundance of smart home technology like connected light bulbs, door locks, sensors, whatever other crazy connected objects that the Internet of Things crowd dreams up on Kickstarter. Google clearly sees an opportunity. Phones are increasingly being NFC enabled as well. NFC is near field communications. It's the same thing as RFID. So if you have NFC enabled door locks, all you have to do is tap your phone to unlock your door, that sort of thing. You can have NFC enabled rings. So you tap your hand on your door to unlock it, all sorts of neat stuff. There's just all sorts of cool applications for NFC technology. But notice the one connecting factor for all these things is your smartphone. So because most people have smartphones, we can sort of determine that because most people have smartphones, we can market this technology to people who have smartphones. Plus, if you're going to have a smart home, you're probably going to be having a smart phone as well. It just goes with the territory, right? Like I have a smartphone because I work in the field where I need one. And most people have smartphones because they work in a field where they're going to need a smartphone at some point. it's just a good idea to have one, really. So such devices need to boot up, use the system on a chip to handle input and output, and communicate over a network. All things that the Linux-based Android OS is really good at. It's just a little heavy right now. So this new operating system, even if it is Android-based and using some of the same protocols, it'll communicate really well with Android phones. So I'm really excited about the Brillo operating system as well. Now that's just a code name for it. We don't know what its real name is going to be. So it's really cool what Android is, or rather what Google's coming out with. So Ars Technica has written before about Google's smart home ambitions, and it sounds like things are actually heating up pretty significantly. The company has snapped up a company called Nest, which worked on smart, what's the word? Not smart home, but smart thermostat technology. They also bought Dropcam and Revolve, which were smart home hub manufacturers. And the Android team is apparently leading development, though not Nest, through these technologies. So the Google unit most specifically attached to smart homes is making us wonder how much input Nest is actually providing. But still, Google also tried to enter the connected home before with Android at Home, but that unit was quietly sort of swept away. The report says that Google executives thought that it was a little bit too early, and they canned that project. The best news, though, is timing. The report says Google will talk more about this at I/O next week. So we'll have Android, Android Wear, Android TV, Android Auto, and possibly Android Home as well at I/O next week. So I'm really excited to watch the live streams of I/O. Obviously, I can't be there in person because I have to do the show here, but I'm really excited to see what's going to be at the Google I/O conference, which is next week. So very excited about that. I/O and E3 are really the two conferences that I get really excited about. Microsoft's not so much. I do get excited about the Verge's conference, but Microsoft's hasn't really been that amazing, except for just recently with the HoloLens. Still, I'm not too excited by many conferences because they tend to just be really disappointing. But Google's I/O conference, they're always showing off really neat stuff there. So I'm pretty excited about that. You can watch live, by the way, on YouTube. Search for Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube, and you can watch live that way. We have a viewer right now. Hey, what's up? You're watching YouTube on Hot News Talk Radio. We're very connected here on Hot News Talk Radio. We're actually more connected than I think a lot of other radio stations are, just because they don't think ahead. You can listen live on hotnewstalkradio.com, download the TuneIn app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Go on Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter, where you report the world decides. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're all over the place on social media, on the internet, everywhere. Very connected on Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. That's Hot News Talk Radio, where we're saving you money. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We have a lot of great programming here on Hot News Talk Radio as well. We have Don Imus in the morning. We have Laura Ingram on Tuesdays. We have Real Estate University, where Eric and John talk about the local real estate and real estate investment markets. Nuganomics.com with David Toulis. He talks about local economy and free market right here on Hot News Talk Radio. Very Nuga-centric view, which is to say that he thinks the local economy is much better than the national economy, and he likes to focus more on more on the Chattanooga area than anywhere else. Very Hamilton County oriented here on Hot News Talk Radio. This is Digital Drive, by the way. I'm your host, Russell. Hi. We talk about technology and quite a bit more on Hot News Talk Radio, and really been very excited about what Microsoft has been doing. Microsoft, it seems like Microsoft is really, the guys over at Microsoft are really trying to change how we think about Microsoft. Satya Nadella has been doing a very good job of that. He's a new Microsoft CEO. Been doing a very good job of that. Microsoft used to be sort of old school, I guess, in the way they were handling things. Windows 7 didn't really feel like a huge deal when it came out because it was just Vista but better. Windows 8, I was very disappointed with that. I didn't like it at all. 8.1 and 8.5, still I don't like it at all. Windows 10, though, I don't know. Windows 10's looking kind of cool, especially because you get the free upgrade. If you have Windows 7, they're telling us anyway, if you have Windows 7, you can get a free upgrade to Windows 10, and I might be doing that on a test machine. I don't know. We'll have to see. I've also heard that if you upgrade to Windows 10, you can't dual boot any other operating systems, so I'm going to have to set up a dedicated machine for that. But nevertheless, pretty excited about that. Can't wait. Going to be really cool to see what they're doing with Windows 10 and the Microsoft HoloLens. If I get a HoloLens, I'm going to be contacting Microsoft ASIP to get my hands on one for a tech demo for a review copy, because they usually will send that out. I'm really excited to see what I can get with Microsoft HoloLens just to try it out around the office, because I'm here more than I'm at home. Funnily enough, I'm on the air for now 3 hours a day. 3 hours on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because I do the Half Off show and I do this one. And then again, I do Hot News Now, where I talk about the local news, national news. We do traffic and weather all in the 5 to 6 hour period. So technically it's 3 total hours. And then I'm producing for Nuganomics.com. Anything he needs, I have to get it immediately for him. So I'm producing that technically as well. And I do a tad bit of production work on Cowboy Up with Tex as well. So, and I'm news director, so I do a lot of stuff here at the station. I'm here more than I'm at home. So I'd probably set up HoloLens to be here, set that up as the main area. I'm just thinking about all the cool things that I could do with HoloLens and possibly even use it for my notes and things to broadcast and move up and down. It'd be really, really cool to try out augmented reality live on the air. So it's very exciting technology. So there's a lot of stuff in the news today that I'm having trouble keeping track of everything. Really, there's just way too much. So did you hear about the guy who flew the gyrocopter onto the onto the White House lawn? Yeah, a postman who was upset about how post people were being treated flew a gyrocopter onto the U.S. Capitol's lawn, and he's now facing 9 years in prison. I don't think he should be facing 9 years in prison. That just seems silly to me. He didn't really hurt anybody, and I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't shoot him out of the air with a missile or something. But yeah, this guy flew a gyrocopter onto the lawn of the U.S. The Capitol's lawn, which you'd think would technically be private property. So I'm not sure why they're saying that he's done some sort of horrible thing. I don't know. The number to call in, by the way, is 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949. If you want to talk about things that we have talked about already, or you want to bring up something new or something that we're talking about presently, you can call in at 423-800-8949. I always love it when people call in anyway, so it's just fun. But the man who landed a gyrocopter on the west lawn of the Washington, D.C.'s Capitol building, according to The Verge, is facing up to 9.5 years in prison. So 61-year-old Douglas Hughes, who organized the flight to protest corruption in the U.S. government, has today been indicted on 6 charges, including operating as an airman without an airman certificate, violating aircraft registration requirements, and violating national defense airspace. So, yeah, you have to be very careful when you're flying around D.C. area. It's really high security area. If you step out of line, they'll really mess you up, man, because they don't like it when people step out of line, man. I'm kind of an anti-system guy anyway, so I don't think he did much of anything wrong, but I'm kind of biased because I don't like the feds at all. So if he did it to protest corruption, I mean, hey, more power to you, right? So Hughes, who lives in Florida and has worked as a postal carrier, took off from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on April the 15th in a gyrocopter bearing the symbol, or rather the logo, of the U.S. Postal Service, which is in and of itself pretty ironic and pretty funny. He said his flight was intended to question the influence of big money in U.S. politics, but the stunt spurred a different conversation in the Capitol. A congressional hearing took place late last month to discuss the safety of the city's airspace. Speaking at the hearing, Representative Jason Chaffetz, I think is how you say, he's a Republican from UT. What's UT? Republican from UT. Utah, of course. I'm an idiot. Utah, jeez. Said Hughes was lucky to be alive and should have been blown out of the air. That's pretty harsh words for a guy who's doing a protest and was admittedly pretty peaceful. He says that he should have been blown out of the air. Well, that's not surprising. He's a Republican. They want to blow everything up. But he said that he's lucky to be alive and should have been blown out of the air. It's a little bit harsh, right? I mean, I would say that he's pretty well protected under free speech, but yeah, he didn't really hurt anybody, but could have, right? That's always what they like to go for. He could have hurt somebody, so we need to throw him in jail for a really long time. So Hughes' flight was a crewed mission, and while it was that, the rise of affordable drones means authorities are increasingly having to deal with potential threats coming in from the air. In January, a drone crash landed on the White House lawn. And in Japan, a drone bearing a radiation symbol landed on the roof of an office used by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The claim is that it did contain radioactive materials, which was sand collected from near the Fukushima site. So I'm sure there's that in Los Angeles too. So still, it's raising a discussion about what is an act of, say, terrorism and what is a protected free speech act. And it's really difficult to say, because what he did on the one hand was a peaceful protest, right? And what he did on the other hand was really dangerous. Now, he didn't really hurt anybody, so I can't really say that what he did was necessarily wrong. So it's sort of a difficult scenario. It's really difficult to say if what he did was wrong or if what he did was just a protected protest. So it's really a difficult situation. So to break it down, he's attempting to protest corruption in the United States. And in his attempt to do that, he flies a gyrocopter. Now, a gyrocopter, in case you don't know, a gyrocopter is sort of like a small helicopter. It's the same principle. It doesn't generate lift, though, from direct rotor action. The rotor is unpowered completely. What it has is a rear propeller, and the propeller moves the craft forward. And as it does that, the top propeller rotates, creating lift. So you can actually get a heck of a lot of lift without a whole lot of power. It's a really cool device, and it's just like a small helicopter. And if you've watched Mad Max 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because there's a gyrocopter in Mad Max 2 and it gets shot down. It's a really cool scene. But anyway, the gyrocopter is what this guy used to fly onto the United States Capitol lawn. And it was really funny. I thought it was funny when I first saw what was going on. I mean, the guy didn't blow up the gyrocopter or anything like that. It's sort of a woulda, coulda, shoulda situation where they're saying he could have done something terroristic. He could have had a bomb, all these sorts of things. And we have this Republican from Utah saying that he should have been blown out of the air, which is kind of harsh words for somebody who really didn't harm anybody. So he's calling for violence against somebody who did not do a violent act. And that sort of shows you the mentality, where I wonder if this representative, if he were given a shoulder-mounted surface-to-air missile, if he would be willing to pull that trigger, is now my question. Like, would you be willing yourself to shoot him? Say you're given a high-powered rifle with an optic on it, a scoped magnification optic, and you have the option now to shoot this guy out of the air. I wonder if this Republican from Utah would pull that trigger. Something tells me he wouldn't have the guts to do it. And that really shows you something about the mentality we have here in the States, where people are so willing to call for violence or are willing to incite violence against others, but they're really not willing to carry out these acts of violence themselves. So we have sort of a cowardly culture in the States where people are willing to call for violence all day, but they're not willing to do it themselves. And it's really funny how that works. I think that's sort of a funny culture we have. It's sort of humorous in one sense, and it's sort of disastrous in another. Where on this one hand, people are willing all day to say this person needs to be shot, he should be killed, he should be strung up or whatever, but they're not willing to carry out these actions themselves. And that really shows you something about how, on the one hand, cowardly, on the other hand, misguided and misunderstanding people are. So I'm not really sure if this is an act that's deserving of violence, him flying onto the state capitol lawn. I really don't think that that's an act that's deserving of violence. It's sort of a topic for debate. And the solution to what he did, I don't think, is blowing him up anyway. That seems like a really silly thing to do. So the man who flew a gyrocopter onto the U.S. Capitol lawn is now facing 9 years in prison. He landed a gyrocopter on the west lawn of D.C.'s Capitol building last month. Now he's facing up to 9.5 years in prison. 61-year-old Douglas Hughes organized a flight to protest corruption in the United States government and has today been indicted on 6 charges. So the direct quote from Representative Jason Chaffetz, who's a Republican from Utah, said, "Hughes is lucky to be alive and should have been blown out of the air." And that's sort of what catches my attention and sort of sparks an exclamation point to appear over my head. As he says he should have been blown out of the air. So I'm really curious to know if Mr. Jason Chaffetz had been given a shoulder-mounted surface-to-air missile, perhaps an RPG, if he would be willing to fire that missile at Mr. Hughes, if he would be willing to do that. And something tells me he wouldn't be, because it's sort of very easy to wish violence on other people, but it's very difficult to carry it out yourself. And people are oftentimes unwilling, especially when we're talking about taxes, right? Because every social program has to be backed by violence. It just has to be, because there's always that threat of violence. There's always the barrel of a gun directly behind that bill that is charging you money for existing, because you have to pay your income tax, which is money that you supposedly have to pay because they want you to pay this money because if you've earned any sort of money, then they want you to pay money, because somehow earning money means you owe money. And I'm not sure how that works either. That seems to be kind of ridiculous and kind of silly, but there's always that threat of violence behind it. You hear about all these social programs all day and they say, you know, free ebooks for kids. And that sounds really good on the surface of it. But you have to recognize that behind that, there's always a threat of violence, because somebody has to pay. And even if you can't pay, you're going to be dragged off to prison. Even if you can't pay, you can't afford, because you have a family to feed. That doesn't matter. You're going to be hauled off to prison because you're a criminal now if you refuse to pay. So any of these nice and wonderful and shiny and well-meaning social programs that we have are always backed by violence. They kind of have to be. And it's very unfortunate that people are willing to incite this violence but are not willing to carry it out themselves. They're willing to put out the violent rhetoric, but they're not willing to carry out that violence themselves. And that's such a shame to me, because I constantly am thinking about the scenario, right, where this person is going to be thrown in jail or executed for not paying his taxes. And I wonder if, you know, John Q. taxpayer, who's thinking that people who don't pay taxes should be thrown in jail, if you gave him a gun and put it in his hand and said, shoot that guy for not paying taxes, I wonder if he would do it. And something tells me he wouldn't. We have sort of a cowardly culture in that way. And on the one hand, that's good, because people shouldn't be willing to carry out violence against others, but people also should not be willing to incite or wish violence upon others either, because that's really such an evil thing. It's so mean. Well, in much lighter-hearted news, Walmart.horse has been put out to pasture, according to Ars Technica, after the retailer has started a domain dispute. You see, the .horse domain has been opened up by ICANN, which is the sort of a institution that gives out these domain names and sells them. Comic artist Jeff Jacques has been so amused when the .horse top-level domain was created, which is similar to .com, except it's .horse. He decided to make a new website, Walmart.horse. The site portrayed an unexplainably funny picture of a horse in front of a Walmart store. And I don't know what's funny about that, but it's just funny. Walmart didn't really get the joke, and in March they sent Jacques a cease and desist letter telling him that the site infringed on their trademark. Jacques responded saying that his site was fair use because the horsey site was a pretty obvious parody, and if Walmart had other animals it wanted to add to the website, he added cheekily that he would happily comply. Well, Walmart.horse has now been taken down because Walmart doesn't seem to understand what jokes are. And I think if Walmart had, the folks over at Walmart played along with the joke and sort of went with it, that they would have had a much more positive response, and people would just say that the guys at Walmart have a sense of humor or are playing along with the joke. Well, people who work in corporate positions oftentimes don't really have a very good sense of humor. This is Digital Drive. I'm your host, Russell, and the local economy often has a very good sense of humor, and somebody who also has a good sense of humor is David Toulis, and his show is Nuganomics.com right here on Hot News Talk Radio.
This is the modern world. What kind of fool do you think I am? You think I know nothing of
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.